Few military developments in the 21st century have reshaped global security as profoundly as the rise of the People's Liberation Army Navy. What began as a coastal defense force has over the past 2 decades transformed into the largest navy in history. A fleet of surface combatants, submarines, carriers, amphibious ships, and missiles built with a specific strategic logic. Control of the waters near China and the ability to deter or defeat external intervention, especially from the United States, in a conflict over Taiwan. To understand that transformation, we must first understand the strategic imperative driving it. Since the end of the Cold War, China's leadership under the Chinese Communist Party has framed the so-called reunification, with Taiwan as a core national objective. Beijing views the self-governing island of Taiwan not as a foreign country, but as a province that must ultimately return to mainland control, by force if necessary. This political objective has guided the People's Liberation Army Navy's development for years. The PLA Navy's evolution is remarkable not just in size, but in purposeful design. When China's first modern warships were built, they were intended for area denial, defending territorial waters. But under President Xi Jinping's long-term military modernization goals, the Navy has shifted to a blue water force capable of projecting power far beyond China's shores. The People's Liberation Army Navy's current blueprint is focused almost exclusively on the Western Pacific, the Taiwan Strait, and the broader waters where a conflict over Taiwan would unfold. At the heart of this design is a concept military analysts call anti-access area denial. In a Taiwan scenario, China's goal would be to prevent U.S. and allied forces from entering the battle space and influencing the outcome. The People's Liberation Army Navy, in conjunction with China's Air Force and missile forces, has developed layered defenses, long-range anti-ship missiles, advanced submarines, surface combatants, and fighter aircraft, intended to make the seas around Taiwan prohibitively dangerous for an opposing fleet. One of the most visible elements of this strategy is China's aircraft carrier program. In less than 2 decades, China has built and commissioned multiple carriers. The Fujian, its most advanced yet, is a large modern carrier equipped with electromagnetic catapult launch systems, a capability previously unique to the U.S. Navy. It can carry dozens of aircraft, including fighters and early warning platforms, allowing the People's Liberation Army Navy to project air power beyond mainland air bases. While the United States still fields more carriers and possesses technological advantages in many areas, China's emphasis on carriers is not about confronting the U.S. globally. Instead, the carriers are intended to help control the first island chain, a strategic boundary of islands that includes Taiwan, the Philippines, and Japan, and to enforce a blockade or exclusion zone around Taiwan in a conflict. Another critical component of the People's Liberation Army Navy's design is its submarine fleet. China has invested heavily in both conventional and nuclear-powered submarines capable of launching anti-ship missiles and torpedoes in the depths of the Western Pacific. Submarines are silent predators under the sea, and in many combat scenarios, they could seriously threaten U.S. surface forces, including carriers and amphibious ships attempting to enter the Taiwan Strait. But maritime power is not only about big ships and submarines. It's also about logistics, amphibious capability, and amphibious landing ships. Analysts observe that China has developed a large fleet of amphibious transport docks, landing ships, and even specialized landing barges designed to support large-scale amphibious operations. These vessels could ferry troops, vehicles, and equipment across the narrow strait separating China from Taiwan and enable a cross-sea invasion aimed at overwhelming Taiwanese defenses. In exercises and war games, including large live-fire drills around Taiwan in recent years, the PLA has demonstrated its growing proficiency in operations integrating ships, air power, and missile strikes. These exercises often simulate blockades of key ports, long-range strikes on maritime targets, and complex sea-air integration, all central to what a real conflict might look like. From the Taiwanese perspective, the threat posed by the People's Liberation Army Navy's growing capabilities has led to investments in asymmetric defense strategies. Smaller fast-attack craft armed with potent anti-ship missiles, coastal missile batteries, and mobile defense systems. Taiwan's navy, though dwarfed by China's in sheer size, focuses on defending its coastal waters and exploiting the geography of the strait to make any invasion costly. This strategic tug-of-war between China's military modernization and Taiwan's defensive measures is only part of the picture. For decades, the United States Navy, backed by alliances and partnerships in the region, has been seen as the ultimate counterweight to China's maritime expansion. The U.S. 7th Fleet operates regularly in the Pacific and the Taiwan Strait, conducting freedom of navigation operations and joint exercises with allies to deter aggression. In the event of conflict, U.S. naval strategy would almost certainly involve sending carrier strike groups, amphibious ready groups, and expeditionary forces into the area. The aim would be to break China's blockade, protect sea lines of communication, and support Taiwan's defense. But distance is a real factor. U.S. forces operating from bases in Japan, Guam, and Hawaii would have to transit thousands of miles to reach the theater, giving China's geographically closer navy an initial advantage in mobilization and positioning. This tyranny of distance. The simple fact that China's navy is already near Taiwan while U.S. forces are far from it is a central factor in the PLA People's Liberation Army Navy. China's strategy is built around exploiting this geographic proximity, establishing exclusion zones, and using missiles and submarines to disrupt reinforcements. The People's Liberation Army Navy's modern surface combatants, long-range air defenses, and strike aircraft all contribute to making the waters around Taiwan a highly contested zone. But this does not mean a Chinese victory would be certain. U.S. naval doctrine emphasizes integrated joint warfare, combining sea, air, space, and cyber assets to shape and control the battlespace. Advanced Aegis-equipped cruisers and destroyers, long-range reconnaissance and strike aircraft, submarine forces, and amphibious capabilities allow the U.S. Navy to contest control at sea. They also bring with them the operational experience of decades of deployments and coalition operations in multiple theaters. What this ultimately creates is a scenario where both sides prepare for what many strategists call a fleet-on-fleet confrontation under extremely difficult conditions. For China, the objective is to prevent outside interference and to force a quick resolution on terms favorable to Beijing. For the United States, the goal would be to defend a partner, uphold international law, and maintain a balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. The stakes in this naval competition are enormous. If conflict were to erupt, it could involve the modern carriers of both sides, massive missile barrages, submarine stalks in the twilight waters of the Pacific, and island-based air forces on high alert. The People's Liberation Army Navy's design, focused on a 2NAD, amphibious capability, and regional dominance, would face off against centuries-old maritime traditions and technologies of the U.S. What history teaches us is simple. Naval warfare at this scale is unpredictable. The typhoon battles of the Pacific in World War II, the long sieges, the mines, and the submarines, all showed that technology, geography, and political will collide in unexpected ways when maritime powers clash. And in the Taiwan Strait, those elements may once again define the future of a region, and possibly the world. In the end, China's navy was not built for global power projection alone. It was built, carefully, deliberately, for one mission: to control the waters around Taiwan and to hold at bay the most powerful navy ever assembled, the United States. And in that mission lies the future of peace or the possibility of war in the Indo-Pacific.